Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well. Another beautiful Wednesday here in New Brunswick. What a day of sports so far. We're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final. Of course, Game 5, less than 5 hours away now. But the main headline that we're going to jump on first is the action at Wimbledon and Canadians men tennis having a 50% good day. But also, I think it's a sign of good things to come. And also, we're going to talk about really the changing of the guard and curtains on, I believe, a great career and a career that really should end in the not too distant future. But just a little housekeeping here to start the show. You're used to seeing podcasts released in the morning. That's kind of been my routine, just with work and different things like that. But the afternoons is going to, when it's coming now, around this time, 5:30, you can expect the podcast to drop mostly every day. Tuesdays with Seamus may vary depending on his schedule. But when it comes to solo episodes with me, I'm going to be trying to do them right after work. So do a podcast and there'll be different times. Like next week's a slow week when it comes to sports. We got the MLB All-Star game, which it's the worst time of the sports year because there's really no sports. The NBA Finals will be happening, so that at least we have something. And the Open Championship will be Thursday. But, around this time every week, around this time every day, you can expect the podcast during the week. I'm going to try to sprinkle in a few on the weekends. Of course, when I can have guests, they might be a little later, so that could drop a little later in the day as well. So, yeah, I expect a 4:30, 5 to 5:30 podcast episode daily to drop. And I hope that for you that have listened, enjoyed my interview with Zach Fucale. I think it was really informative. Him talking about playing multiple sports and what it has done for his career. Him talking about really his struggles and, the mental health, kind of what he had to do to get where he's at and still thriving. 26, playing the best pro hockey of his life right now for the Hershey Bears. So listen to that. That's on Facebook and on the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So listen to that. I'm trying to get more interviews. That's something I'm always sending out direct messages. So just know if I can get a really cool interview like with Zach or like I did with Doug McLean, I will do that. That's always on the back burner for me. So that's something that I'm constantly doing. That's a daily thing for me to send out some feelers to people, and we'll see what happens down the stretch. But I hopefully will see some more in the not too distant future. But regarding today, I mentioned, I thought I would leave with the Stanley Cup Final, but the past couple of days started with Manic Monday with Shapovalov beating Denis Shapovalov beating Roberto Bautista Agut, the eighth in the world seed, in straight sets, really domination over him, winning 6-1, 6-3, 7-5. I thought Shapo had a really good chance of winning. I did not see him demolishing him the way he did. And then later in the day, Felix Auger-Aliassime beat number 4 in the world, Alexander Zverev, or Sasha Zverev, from Germany. And that was another upset. Felix was up 2-0, lost the next 2 sets 6-4, but he persevered and found a way to get over the hump and get to his first major quarterfinal. And it was the first time ever that 2 Canadian men were in the quarterfinal of a major. So a big deal going into today. And like I said, it was a mixed bag today, but I do think it was a positive day for men's tennis. Let's think about Canadians men's tennis for a second. We had a brief period where Milos Raonic was a factor. He made it to a Grand Slam final in Wimbledon, losing to Andy Murray in straight sets. Never really was in that match. Didn't really get that close. He's made it to another major final in Australia, losing to Federer in straight sets. So he's been at that stage, but he's never really gotten his hands on a trophy. We've seen him at the Rogers Cup in Canada. We've seen him at majors compete well. But what do we think most of when we think of Milos Raonic? Injuries. They've really hampered his career. It's taken a lot out of him. And his prime is being lost due to injuries right now. And he's been Canada's best hope. We've had Daniel Nestor as a Canadian, but he's a doubles player. He's won Grand Slam titles, but doubles does not have the same cachet as a singles champion in the world of tennis. So we're really been searching for is there going to be somebody that's on the world stage that's not just a high seed, that can't just break into the top 5, but can they be a factor and potentially win a major? And for a while, it looked like it was going to be Denis Shapovalov. He had all the flair. He beat Rafael Nadal at the Rogers Cup center court in a night match. We've seen him go deep at the French Open to a quarterfinal. But then he had a few rough patches. He obviously had the match where he struck the ball and he hit the chair ump in the face, where he was disqualified and fined from that match. He's had his struggles mentally, where he just can break down, throw a racket, shades of John McEnroe. And so there's been a little bit of doubt. Then Felix came into the picture, where all in all, I think Felix is a more talented tennis player than Denis Shapovalov. His shot selection, the way he can hit the one-handed backhand, he has a big serve, and he just looks like a confident kid on the court. He's had some good results. But we're sitting there thinking, okay, it's still Djokovic, Nadal's world in men's tennis. And today's result didn't change that. But it does make you think. And we'll start with the positive note in Canadian men's tennis today. And that's Denis Shapovalov defeating Karen Khachanov, the world number 25, and advancing to his first career Grand Slam semifinal. Now, you could argue today that Denis should have won this match in less than 5 sets. I watched the first 2 sets in my lunch break, and first set, he won easily. He got a break early. He cruised through that first set. Second set, he let Khachanov dictate play, and I'm thinking, okay, third set, he'll come out. He's going to have momentum. But he loses the third set 7-5. And I was, at work kind of keeping tabs on things, thinking this is going to be terrible. To lose to him, he should win this match. But I give him credit. In the fourth set, he dominated Khachanov, winning 6-1. And then he gets to the fifth set. You were down 2-1. You got the backbone to get this done. And he battles through. He gets the break, the only break of the fifth set, and he wins. And it's a great display from Denis. He's, like I said, he's had his ups and downs. I'm sure there's times where people have said, this guy's too much of a hothead to be a Grand Slam champion, to be a guy that's going to be consistently great. Obviously, we've seen him be really good. He's in the top 10. With this result, I believe he'll break into the top 6 or 7 in the world. So he's rising. But getting to a semifinal, it doesn't matter that he beat Khachanov today, a 25 seed. You got to beat who's in your draw. He beats him. He gets to this point, and he beat an 8 seed to get to the quarterfinal. And it's a major accomplishment. And I think he's only the third Canadian man ever to make the semifinal at Wimbledon. So, putting him in elite company when it comes to men's tennis in Canada. But it also provides an opportunity. And the reason I say it provides an opportunity is because who does he have in the semifinal on Friday? He's going to be playing world number 1, Novak Djokovic. Now, on paper, this should be a no-brainer that Novak Djokovic is going to win this match. Looking at the draw, which we'll get into in a minute, Novak Djokovic should win his 20th major championship. He was the favorite before, with the likes of some tough competitors. A lot of those guys that you think, well, maybe they can compete with Novak, they're out. So it's even more heavily favored. But Denis should come into this match he's playing with house money. Novak has the opportunity in this tournament to tie Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer in career Grand Slam titles at 20. He can win another major at Roger Federer's best event, where he's won 8 championships. He would win his 3rd Grand Slam of the season, and they've only played 3. He would have won all 3 heading into US Open, looking to complete the career Grand Slam and the year-round slam. So he's got that pressure on him. Denis has never been to a semifinal. I'm sure he's going to be nervous. That's just life. But also, it's an opportunity to maybe you lose. But what if you get a set off him? What if it's a tight match? It's experience. Denis is still young. And there's only so much time where you can say, okay, this was a really good, in sports, you rarely hear, well, they had a really good run. If the Montreal Canadiens lose tonight, the narrative is not going to be, well, they had a great season. We're happy with this result. No, because your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. Beginning of the playoffs, of course, a Montreal fan would be like, okay, we beat Toronto. We get to a Stanley Cup final. In essence, that sounds fantastic after our lackluster regular season. But when you go through that grind and you win 3 rounds of the playoffs, when you get to that ending, the only satisfaction that you can get, the only satisfactory result is a championship. And in this case, I don't think that is. I'm normally a guy that crushes the moral victory. I still do. Like today, Felix losing, which we'll get into, there's no moral victory there. He played a better player, yes. And I give him credit for getting there. But looking at who he played in the semifinal, that one hurts. Really hurts. But for Denis, go play with house money. You're playing the world number 1. And like you said after the match, yeah, I'm playing Djokovic. He's the best in the world, but who knows? Exactly the mindset you should have. Because who knows? Stranger things have happened. The Montreal Canadiens are in the Stanley Cup Final. The Phoenix Suns are 3 games away from winning the NBA championship. This COVID-racked season of sports, it doesn't matter what it is, it's been weird. The only constant you could say where teams that should win, that are winning, the Tampa Bay Lightning are a win away. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were not the favorite to win the Super Bowl at the start of the year with 43-year-old Tom Brady. But they find a way. San Francisco Giants are in first place in the NL West in Major League Baseball. Who had that at this point of the season? Nobody. They certainly didn't have the Dodgers losing to the Marlins back-to-back nights. Stranger things can happen, but for Denis, just go out and play. And who knows? Maybe something happens. Maybe Djokovic hits another lineswoman. Obviously making a crack about the U.S. Open last year. But I'm just saying, maybe something happens. Just go out there and have fun and play. It's your first career major semifinal. Enjoy the moment. You're on center court at Wimbledon. That doesn't happen every day. Denis played on court 1 today, a great court, but you're going to be on center court with the world number 1, and I believe the crowd is going to be behind Denis Shapovalov. Djokovic is not a fan favorite. People that like arrogance and boredom are Novak Djokovic fans. And like just, bland. They really enjoy rice with no pepper on it. Those kind of people really enjoy Novak Djokovic. Denis has flair. Denis has Fernando Tatis Jr. III sales pitch. That's what he brings. He's fun to watch. We'll see. Friday, that's must-see TV, and that's semifinal. But good for Denis for getting there. Now, as I just said, Djokovic defeated. He won this morning. Cruz beating Martin Fucsovic 6-3, 6-4, 6-3. Now we move to the other half of the draw, where Roger Federer looked like he had a really good draw. He could have faced world number 2 Daniil Medvedev, but Medvedev lost yesterday to Hubert Hurkacz, who in 5 sets after they had to play the final 2 sets after Monday was rained out. So Federer was playing an opponent who was playing on his 3rd straight day. He's rested, day off. And he's only played 2 matches in his last 4. And, healthy, hasn't played a whole lot of tennis. But I say this every time now before a Federer match. There's no gimmies. I don't care if Federer is playing the 150th ranked person in the world. That's not a gimme win for Roger Federer anymore. It was, 3-4 years ago. In 2019, you could say it was when you lost to Djokovic in the Wimbledon final in one of the greatest matches of all time. But at his age, at 39, going to be 40, and the wear and tear and just the inconsistent play, any Roger Federer loss is not an upset. And today, I don't believe it was an upset because Roger was playing Hubert Hurkacz, who really broke onto the scene last year, where he won multiple tournaments. He's risen to number 14 in the world. He's kind of an awkward guy because he'll serve and volley. He's tall, he's 6'4", but he's got good touch. He's got a decent serve, and he just wins a lot of matches, point blank. In tournaments outside of majors, he's made it to a lot of finals, semifinals, and he gets a lot of wins. And like I said, he beats the world number 2 in Medvedev. Then he goes against Roger Federer, and it was just a no contest today. He beats Roger in straight sets. It was Roger's first straight set loss at Wimbledon in 19 years. That's a long time. He beats him 6-3, 7-6, 6-love. Roger was up 3-0 in the second set. Hurkacz comes back to win it in the tiebreak. And in that third set, Roger was just a ghost, a no-show. And obviously, Hurkacz, congrats. You're on your first semifinal like Denis. It's a major accomplishment. But the bigger story here is Roger Federer. And I have this conversation with my mother all the time because she's a massive Roger Federer fan. And I say he should have retired 2 to 3 years ago. And I stand by that. Now, I don't like to retire people, but I believe it's fair for media types, for dummies like me, to say it. Because it's not good service to say a player that's elderly, who's playing bad, you don't just say, well, they're good in the room, let's keep them around. No. Joe Thornton last season for the Toronto Maple Leafs was bad. He shouldn't be in the NHL anymore. He should retire. Patrick Marleau played last season because he wanted to set the all-time games record. In those games that he played last year, he was ineffective. The whole San Jose Shark team was, but Patrick Marleau looked 40. It's a young man's game. So commenting on somebody that should retire, I think is fair. It's not out of bounds. Obviously, if a team's going to sign you, that's their own stupidity. That's their own fault. But tennis is an individual sport. And if I'm a coach of Roger Federer, if I'm his wife, I sit him down and say, Roger, you're not Tom Brady. Tom Brady's getting it done at 43. Roger's 39, and he just can't anymore. He's had 3 knee surgeries in the last 5 years. That's part of it. He's also played a lot of tennis. You've won 20 Grand Slams. I think Djokovic is obviously going to finish with more Grand Slam titles than Roger Federer. But for a large chunk of the media and just fans, the greatest tennis player of all time will always be Roger Federer. For many things, because of his class, because of the way he played. He's not boring like Djokovic. He's got that smile. He's hard not to like. And for some people, he'll always be the GOAT. It won't be Djokovic. It won't be Nadal. It won't be, you name it. It will be Roger Federer. But to me, this match should be his final one at Wimbledon. And I think it should be his final one ever. He may play at the Olympics now to represent Switzerland. And if that's where you want to finish at the Olympics, try to win a gold medal, okay. But that should be it. There should be curtains on an historic career. One of the greatest careers in the history of professional sports. I'm very close to saying the same thing about Serena Williams. Because for Roger Federer, for Serena Williams, getting to a quarterfinal will never be enough. The only goal you have playing at this stage is to win a Stanley Cup. For Jason Spezza, for Joe Thornton, for these veterans around the league that sign with these teams, it's not about just playing the game to love it anymore. You want to win a Stanley Cup. Jerome McGinley at the tail end of his career was not going to Boston, was not going to Colorado because, well, yes, he still loved the game. But you know what his mindset was? I don't want to be known as the greatest player of all time to never have a ring. Jerome never got one. Joe hasn't got one. Marlo still doesn't have one. But that's the mindset. And in an individual sport, it's all on you. And I don't think either of these all-time greats, you could argue the two best in the sport for women's tennis. Anybody who argues that somebody's better than Serena Williams, I think you need to check yourself. She might be the most dominant athlete in the history of sports. What she did for a 10 to 15 year span is unheard of. She dominated. Roger, Djokovic, and Nadal all were uneven. They were even keel. She was winning the Triple Crown with Secretariat, while the other horses were back at the starting gate. So I don't enjoy saying that these greats should leave. You obviously want to see your favorites play forever, but there's always changing of the guard. And maybe it's Shapovalov. Maybe it's Matteo Berrettini. Maybe Zverev breaks through and finally wins a Grand Slam. Stefanos Tsitsipas nearly did it at the French Open. But there's always new challengers. And Nadal and Djokovic will still be in the sport for a period of time. But I think for Roger, this is it. And if I'm in his inner circle, I tell him, we've had a great run. You're the best, one of the best athletes ever. But it's time to hang up the shoes, to put the racket away. Go spend time with your 4 kids and your wife. You've earned it. You had all the money in the world. You're still going to make some money through sponsorship type deals. Let's go home. And obviously that's a tough conversation, but if I'm in his inner circle, I really think about having it. So Federer loses to Hurkacz. Hurkacz will battle Matteo Berrettini. Berrettini is world number 7. He beat Felix obviously today, but Berrettini's only been in one major semifinal, and that was at the U.S. Open last year. Hurkacz, no experience in a semifinal. Shapovalov, no experience. So one semifinal in the combined 3 of the 4 remaining. And Djokovic has obviously won 19 Grand Slam titles. So the Vegas odds are heavily favoring Novak Djokovic to win Wimbledon, which is totally fair. But the Hurkacz-Berrettini match will be interesting because either way, the winner will have their first Grand Slam final. So you don't see that a lot on the men's draw because it's always Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, or the combination of 2 of those 3 are in the final. So Tsitsipas gets his first attempt in Roland Garros. Berrettini or Hurkacz will get their first opportunity Sunday to try to win their first Grand Slam championship. And on the women's draw, we're 2 very different matchups. We have Angelique Kerber, who's won 3 Grand Slams in her career. The world number 25 has really caught fire at this tournament, playing some dominant tennis, winning in straight sets yesterday. She'll play Ash Barty, who is the world number 1. She won in straight sets as well. But Barty's won 1 Grand Slam title. It was at the French Open in 2019. She's been consistent, really consistent in the majors. She's always been a quarterfinal, round of 16 woman. In major 1000s, she wins a lot of those tournaments. But can she get over the hump with Kerber? Kerber, her best surface is grass. She's won 2 or 3 majors on grass. And we'll see the battle of the 2 previous Grand Slam champions. That'll be first up on center tomorrow. In the second matchup of the day, we'll see Armia Sabalenka of Belarus face Karolina Pliskova of the Czech Republic. Sabalenka is the world number 3 right now, and she's playing some great tennis. She's got the most wins this season on tour with 34. She's got a big serve. You got to get first serves in against her because she will smack your serve right back at you and smack winners if you give her a weak second serve. And Pliskova is a similar player. She's got a big serve, and again, she can attack weak second serve. So we'll see who can capitalize the most, but this is Sabalenka's first career semifinal. Pliskova's only been in one. That was in 2016, so it's been a while for her. She's always been in the top 10, but both women with a big opportunity. They'll obviously face a Grand Slam champion either way in the final. But I like Sabalenka, and I think I'll pick Kerber to be in the final. We'll see what happens, but Sabalenka's been on my radar for a while. I think she's too good to not win a Grand Slam title. So we'll see what she can accomplish. But ladies semifinals will be tomorrow, men's semis Friday, and then we got the ladies championship Saturday morning and the men's championship Sunday morning. So some good tennis for the rest of the week. And as we hit into crunch time here at Wimbledon to see who will be facing off for the prestigious trophy. Speaking of trophies, the Stanley Cup will be in the building again tonight as the Stanley Cup Final pivots back to Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay. Obviously, we're back in Tampa because the Montreal Canadiens survived elimination on Monday, winning 3-2 in overtime. And I haven't been able to comment on this game yet because I did the interview on Monday. I talked with Shea yesterday. So in Game 4, what really stood out to me about the Montreal Canadiens was the way they eliminated time and space. And, that sounds like a vague term, and it's just, well, how does that translate? Well, they didn't give Tampa the ability to have the puck very long. We saw them go 5 for 5 on their penalty kill, meaning Tampa went over 5 in the power play, where the second Kucherov got the puck, there was a body on him. Phil Deneau just chased people like a ravaged dog around the ice, not giving them any space. We saw Sherratt, Weber look like a man possessed, trying to kill Braden Point every time he got the puck. But there was just no room for the Tampa Bay Lightning to make plays. Really, how Tampa scored their goal is by Brett Kulak making a slew of stupid plays. The second goal where he gaps up, he's too aggressive. They get by him. Joseph feeds Pat Maroon on a 2-on-1, puts it behind the net, puts it in the back of the net. But other than that, we saw Weber, we saw Sherratt, Petrie, Edmondson. These guys played their best game of the series. And who else played their best game of the series was Carey Price. Carey was average in the first 3 games. And I don't think that's me giving a hot take. I think he was average. Was the team phenomenal in front of him? No. But at the same time, you're Carey Price, you're in the Stanley Cup Final. You're getting outplayed by your heir apparent. And Tampa, yes, has a better team in front of them. But Montreal's defense has not been slouches this postseason when it comes to helping their goaltender. I see, again, this narrative continues where I even heard one stupid comment that said Carey Price should win the Conn Smythe even if Tampa wins the cup. I think that's idiotic. Nikita Kucherov or Braden Point should win, or Vasilevsky for that matter, we should give votes before Price. Price has not been the best player for Montreal in every series. I think he was in Toronto. The Winnipeg series, did you even know he dressed? Could have been Jake Allen. I think the best player in the Winnipeg series was Tyler Toffoli. And then in the third round, you could argue the best player was Philip Deneau. He shut down Mark Stone. He helped Carey Price look solid because he didn't let that top line do anything to him. So one series thus far, Carey Price has been the best player on the Montreal Canadiens. But he played a great game. Early on, the shots were 11-1, 8 minutes in, and it looked like Tampa was coming out throwing everything they had at Montreal. But who scores first? Montreal. Only in their third shot of the game, but Josh Anderson. And it's crazy what happens to Montreal's team when he plays like he can. When he's on, when he's skating, when he's got that frontline speed and you can't slow him down, the Montreal Canadiens are just a more confident team because he provides that. He's just a horse. I call him a unicorn because he is. His skating ability at that size, his strength, and just the way he hits people, it affects the defense. Chernak's beat up. We know that he was hurt in the last series. He doesn't want to take a beating from Josh Anderson. He throws the puck away sooner than he should. Jan Ruda is a small defenseman. On the game-winning goal in overtime, it's a foot race where Anderson's got the puck. He pushes it to the front of the net. They whack away at it, but Anderson beats Ruda to the front of the net. After they fall behind the net, he beats Ruda back to the front of the net, even though Ruda had inside position, and he slides it under Vasilevsky to get the game winner. He was an X factor. He is an X factor, and they need him to be the unicorn in order to extend this series and make it interesting. It's 3-1 right now. The series still isn't interesting because Tampa's coming home. They lost the game in overtime. Okay, Montreal got one. But how does Montreal come out in the first 10 minutes tonight? Because the way they started game 4, you can't do that again. It can't, because you're at home. It's just a different feeling when you're at home ice. On home ice. And Tampa, they won the cup last year, but where did they win the cup? In the bubble. There's no emotion there. There's no fans saying, let's celebrate tonight in Tampa. Let's get that boat parade going Friday. Let's get some drinks. And for Montreal, you need to weather that storm early. And I'd advise you, just start the game fast. Start the game on time. That's the oldest cliche. But don't be behind the 8 ball, in the first minute. Because in the first minute of the game, you could tell Tampa was just ready to play. Montreal was kind of cruising through, going through the motions, where Carey Price just stepped up and made some big saves for them. But for Montreal, I did see some things that I really liked. And I said, limiting time and space, Carey Price, but they're getting bodies to the front of the net. On Romanov's goal, they're getting traffic. Guys are at least drive-bying through the middle of the ice, and it makes it tougher on Vasilevsky. He's such a big goalie, you need to make it difficult because you're not going to be scoring unless you're in tight, unless you're getting a screen. And finally, they put Alexander Romanov in the lineup. Erik Gustafsson is useless. The power play stinks. 5-on-5, he's a terrible defenseman. So they finally have the knowledge to say, okay, let's put in Romanov. The kid that we know is a stud. Let's finally put him into the lineup. And yeah, they've been winning without him, but I'd rather have him every night of the week than Erik Gustafsson, who is going to turn the puck over and doesn't bring anything to a power play that's lackluster. But for Montreal, continue the physical game tonight. Make Point's life miserable. He's banged up going into this game because he had all those. Shea Weber nearly killed him a few times. Then Hedman took a shot, hits him in the back of the leg. He's hurting from that. Kucherov was hurt in the last series. I don't think he particularly had a great game 4. I'm sure he'll want to come out and play great tonight with, the all likelihood he'll win the Conn Smythe if they win the cup. I think Vasilevsky loses his first game. He doesn't like losing. He's great following a loss in his post. He's won 14 straight starts after following a loss in the postseason. So that bodes well for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The big thing for Tampa is you do not want to give Montreal even the slightest bit of hope. And you could argue that they have, but it was more of like, for Montreal, it's cathartic. Like, oh, we finally got a win. It's all like a relief. It wasn't like, okay, we're back in this series. It's more like, okay, we didn't get skunked. We didn't go Los Angeles Kings in 1993. We weren't the Washington Capitals of 98. We're not getting swept here. Tonight's game is where Montreal can finally feel like, we're back in this series. It's not the game 4 win, because that's just semantics. But tonight's game, if Montreal finds a way to win tonight, you bet your ass that this series is still very much alive, because Montreal will win game 6 back at home. If the Montreal Canadiens win tonight, this series is going 7. You heard it here first, because Montreal is not losing. They're not getting the Stanley Cup raised by the Tampa Bay Lightning on their home ice. They're not. It's only happened once in the history of that franchise. And it's not happening this season either. That team will find a way to win at home. That crowd will be raucous. How they don't have more people in there already is beyond stupid to me. But if they win tonight, it's going 7, and then it's a game 7. It's a coin flip where they have the opportunity to do something that's never been done. Come back from 3-0 down and win the Stanley Cup. Come back from 3-0 down in the Stanley Cup Final and win it. It would be historic. They would instantly go down as one of the craziest stories ever it'd be a 30 for 30 the next 5 years on ESPN. And they don't even know what hockey is there. Now, I'm not saying Montreal's going to win tonight, but if they do, it's going 7 games. It's coming back to Tampa, and on Sunday night, 8 o'clock, there will be a hockey game. Now, I expect Tampa to come out tonight and play with a sense of urgency. Say, we played pretty good in game 4, but we can be better. We need to set the tone. Both teams are really physical, but let Shea Weber try to kill people. Let them do stupid stuff. Keep letting Montreal head to the penalty box, because I trust in that Tampa power play enough to score a goal at some point. But I look at a guy who's I think has been so ineffective, and that's Steven Stamkos. The guy does nothing. And it's a long playoff, but it's just showing the toll that injuries have taken on him, because he's such a non-factor. In the game the other night, the only thing he does is stand there. He just shoots the puck when he gets in on the power play, but that's all he does. 5-on-5, he's irrelevant. Cirelli is, I feel bad for Cirelli because he has to play with him, and he doesn't bring anything to the table. He doesn't add to that line. It's not more creative because you have Steven Stamkos on it, which is just so unheard of to think of when you think Steven Stamkos, one of the great players in the game, he just doesn't have that aura anymore. He's not that guy. So can he find a spark? Could he score in a must-win tonight? I view it as a must-win for the Tampa Bay Lightning, where you can have the Stanley Cup raised. You can have your moment where you can honestly skate up and say, I'm going to hold the puck. I'm going to hold the cup first year, not like last year where he didn't want to do it because he didn't earn it. And I totally respect that. And I would have the same mindset. Tonight, you win it. You're going to get that cup first. You're the captain. And you can raise that proudly knowing I went through this whole grind. I came back from an injury. Our team stayed strong. And we just won a second straight Stanley Cup. But can he find a second gear? Because we've seen Tyler Johnson have a big game. We've seen Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point have great game ones. We've seen Blake Coleman, that third line, be so effective every game. The one guy that you could really point to, it's the second line that's been quiet. Cirelli, Stamkos. They have Ross Colton playing that line now with Killorn, who has already been ruled out for tonight. I still think he has a broken foot. I don't expect him to play at any point in the series. So is it Stammer's night? If they win, I could see it being him having a big game, because he should be motivated to have a game where people say, that was the Steven Stamkos game. That was the one. Because to this point, there hasn't been one. There hasn't been that moment where you go, I think game 5 against the Islanders, he had a great game. I said before that, this is his night to shine. He scored 2 goals. I'm calling him out again. Steven, this is your time. What are you going to do with it? Is this the night where you help the Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight championship and you get to raise that cup? Or is it another night where you're just another player, a jag, just a guy, where you don't do anything to help them win or lose, but you're just out there? You're that left winger who finishes with an even plus minus, plays 15 minutes, gets a couple shots, and you can say, well, I had a decent game. We've all seen guys like that, where if they got a decent plus minus, they get a shot on goal. Well, at least I was involved, I was out there. It's not worth anything. Those players are the worst because they don't add anything to the game, and they never really were a factor. So can Steven Stamkos be a factor tonight? Game 5 tonight, obviously a huge game for both teams. Like I said, I think it's going 7 if Montreal wins. Obviously, we know what happens if Tampa wins tonight. They will be raising the trophy, the Stanley Cup, and I expect Nikita Kucherov to be named the Conn Smythe Trophy winner in the event that they do. There's also another hockey story regarding the Montreal Canadiens over the past 48 hours, and this one really repulsed me. It was a story that said that the Montreal Canadiens are fans are considering holding a rally, a parade for the Montreal Canadiens, regardless if they win or lose this series. Now, Okay. Obviously, you're going to hold a parade if you win the Stanley Cup because that's your city gets to rejoice. You can say, fuck COVID. If the government put up regulations, I would tell them to go shove it and show up and have a great time and drink some Molson from Jeff Molson. We throw them around for probably $12 a can and have a great time. But you're going to hold a parade to celebrate failure? Yes, you had a great playoff run. Great. But did the Kansas City Chiefs hold a rally in February when they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl? I don't recall. Did the Tampa Bay Rays have a parade when they lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series? I don't remember, but if somebody does, you can put it in the comments. This is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Well, right up there. There's some stupid ideas. Some of the COVID rules are pretty stupid, but this is right up there with that level of stupidity where you're holding a rally to accept and promote failure. Okay, what if you hold a rally this year, you hold a parade, and then next season, your team misses the playoffs, which could very much happen because they're going back into that tough division where Tampa's there, Florida, Boston, I'll throw Toronto in the mix. It's not no cakewalk that you're going to make the playoffs. It's tougher than that Canadian division, which is pretty damn cushy. You actually get to play some big boys now. It's not Ottawa and Vancouver every other night. But a parade? Your franchise has won 24 Stanley Cups. I don't care that they haven't won one since 1993. That's embarrassing. The Cleveland Browns holding a parade to celebrate 0-16 has more credence than this idea. Because Browns fans just suffer and they go through misery. And they, they do it for fun. It's more of a joke. This is a general sentiment. Let's hold a parade because our boys who sucked during the regular season made me look bad because I thought they were really good, which they're showing now in the playoffs. Stunk it up. But you're going to celebrate a good couple months where they went on a run. I said they were a great team. If you listen to the point, you know that I thought I was very high on Montreal. But a parade? Go win the cup. Then have your parade. Have your parade in Montreal, then have a second one in Tampa and shove it in their face and tell that stupid mayor who said she wants to win on home ice to go kiss my ass. That's what you do. Not let's hold a parade because we came in second. Okay, that's like the Olympics, which is why I hate the way the Olympics are formatted. There should be no silver or bronze medals. Didn't think I'd get into this today, but Olympics are coming up. If I ran the tournament, there would be no silver or bronze. You're going home with third place. They can dash this up and you can always say like your medal count. And that's something Canada does all the time. Look at our medal count. How many goddamn golds do we have? At the summer, it's always like 4. Then we're all littered with bronze medals. And we finish with the second most medals behind the States. What's a bronze? Okay, we came in third. So many different events. I don't care that you trained for 4 years. You think you're really that happy going home with a bronze medal? But again, to me, pro sports is really not that. It's simple. There's winners and there's losers. There's one winner every year in team sports. That's what makes it so difficult. Toronto Maple Leafs fans freak out, but guess what? You didn't win. Neither did Colorado, who was better than you. Neither did the Vegas Golden Knights, who are better than you. Neither did the Carolina Hurricanes, who are better than you. Everybody's in the same position other than the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Montreal Canadiens, whoever wins this series. But you do not hold a parade to say, well, we came close. Like, no. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. That's it. There's no close in sports. It's not, well, I came close to jumping over that hurdle. No, you jumped over the hurdle or you fucking fell. Period. And it's this sentiment that's just so irritating to me that I don't get it. This seems like a Toronto Maple Leafs story where they would do this. Montreal, 24 Stanley Cups. If you're Patrick Waugh, if you're Guy Carbonneau, if you're Jacques Plante, if he was living, you're shaking your boots saying, what are you talking about? Guy Lafleur would spit in the face of this idea. And maybe this is our 2021 culture where you have to give participation medals to everybody. It can't be mean-spirited. It's not even mean-spirited. It's just who won. If Montreal wins, hold a damn parade because you earned it. You deserve it. Get drunk as hell. Pull an Alex Ovechkin. I love that shit. Who cares if the Karen or the Moon Mist version, as I like to call them, get upset because you're drunk in public in a fountain or you're pissing or whatever the hell you're doing. Who cares about those people? Because those people are going to be happy, are going to be unhappy every day of their life. But celebrate winning, not, hey, Mom, I came in second at the Pinewood Derby. Who gives a shit, little Timmy? You came in second. Get the hell outside and go pile some wood. Anyway, Montreal, no parades, no rallies, no, let's have a good time because we came in second. Go win the Stanley Cup and have a good time. Or lose the Stanley Cup, shut the hell up, and get ready for next season. That's where I stand on that. Just idiotic idea. And whoever thought of it really should be checked into an institution because that's just fucking crazy. NBA Finals ongoing. I did comment on this. It just came up my phone. I'm obviously not the biggest soccer fan, but I've been getting into the Euros. I really enjoy the soccer has been great. I don't enjoy the penalty kicks at the end of the matches. If that ever got introduced into the Stanley Cup playoffs where a game would be decided by a shootout or the gimmick, I might consider not watching the game because that's just insulting to the game because a shootout has nothing to do with who played better, who has the will to keep going. So I hate that about soccer. But, we see yesterday Forza, aka Italy, get past Spain. They've been on this magical run so far. And now today's the other semifinal. You'll see who's going to play Italy in the final on Sunday. England, the heavy favorites today, are tied with Denmark late in the second half. So the Danes, who have just been this upstart team all tournament, where if you recall early in the tournament, one of their players, Christian Eriksen, passed out and was ruled dead on the field, but they got the defibrillator. They brought him back to life. He's actually at the game today. So great news to see him at the game. But they've been having this special time where they're just getting wins. They beat the Czech Republic in the quarterfinal. They come into this game a heavy underdog, but they continue to fight through it. It's a good feel-good story where they have 10 minutes remaining in the match today, but they're in a position to go to a Euro final, a country in Denmark that's not big, that's not known for soccer. Obviously, hockey, they've produced some decent NHL talent, but to see them make a push and get to a Euro final where the game today is at Wembley Stadium in England. If England loses today, it is going to be complete chaos in England where you have a lot of drunk people upset, just like, it would rival Montreal if they lost on home ice because England is so passionate about soccer. They've gone 50 plus years without winning a major event. And this is the best shot they've had. They got Denmark. Obviously, Italy's no pushover in the final, but their trip to this point has been pretty cushy. And we'll see what happens in the last 10 minutes, but I just wanted to update you on that to see Italy versus either England or Denmark in the Euro Cup final on Sunday afternoon on ABC. The NBA Finals kicked off last night, and it's obviously Suns versus Bucks. And definitely not the matchup anybody expected. The Phoenix Suns were a team that went 8-0 in their last 8 games last year, just missing out in the playoffs. But, they said, well, we got Devin Booker, looks like a stud player. DeAndre Ayton went first overall. I got some good pieces. But they go out and they acquire Chris Paul. And Chris Paul is a great leader. He's head of the Players Association. He's been in the NBA for 16 years. And 16 seasons, he's never been to an NBA Finals. And that's got it. It's the drive in Chris is showing in these playoffs. But that's the Suns story. They got some good bench players as well, but that's their crux of their team. Then you got the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been favorites to get to the NBA Finals the past 2 years. They were the number 1 seed, but they fall short. They lose to the Raptors in 2019 after being up 2-0 in the series, losing 4 in a row. They lose to the Miami Heat last year in 5 games where it was really a no contest, where the one game they won, Giannis Antetokounmpo did not play because of an injury. So that brings us to this year. Well, they cruise in the first round. Then they get the Brooklyn Nets in the second round. They're down 2-0. The Nets get a slew of injuries, including Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And the Bucks capitalize with a healthy roster. They win it in 7 games in overtime. Giannis scores 40 in a game 7. Huge game for him. And the Bucks advance. Then in game 4 of the conference final, he injures his leg. It looked like he might have, tore his ACL in the play, really hurt himself, but no structural damage. But he misses games 5 and game 6, and Milwaukee wins them both, including game 6 in Atlanta. They obviously have Drew Holiday, who they traded for in the offseason. They have Chris Middleton, who's been an all-star, but the team's playing well. And that brings us to this final. And the big question before game 1 was, is Giannis Antetokounmpo going to play? And it went from doubtful to questionable during the day. And then about half an hour before tip-off, it was announced that Giannis was going to play. And that surprised me. I thought we'd see him in this series, but not in game 1. And I don't know if we should have saw him in game 1, because last night, he really was a guy who couldn't be aggressive. We saw a few plays where he had a big block on Devin Booker, where he just smacked that thing out of the air. Great block. It was a chase down block, kind of vintage LeBron James, Andre Iguodala in the 2016 finals. But he had that play. He was getting to the paint a little bit, but he wasn't aggressive, seemed a bit tentative. And, to their credit, Phoenix was willing to give Milwaukee whatever they want. We'll give him whatever he wanted outside of the paint. He could have took a jumper. He could have shot a 3. We saw his threes. They weren't that close. Neither team shoots the 3 particularly well. And so they were giving him that. And in the first half, it was back and forth. Chris Paul did get hot midway through the second quarter. But it looked like, okay, well, we got ourselves a tight game here, and it could go down the wire. But the second half, really, the story is the guy who Phoenix went out and traded for, and that's Chris Paul. The guy is just a veteran. He's been in situations. He's never been in the NBA Finals, but he's not afraid of the big moment. And last night, he finishes with 32 points, 9 assists in 37 minutes. But he was just so efficient. He shot the 3 well, going 4 for 7 from downtown. His mid-range game was on point. And it didn't matter who was guarding him. Holiday could not contain him. They switched that. They tried to get Jeff Teague, a smaller guy. They put a big man on him. He'd find a way. He'd pass the ball. He'd get the ball to DeAndre Ayton, who played 39 minutes last night, finished with 22 points and was huge because he had 19 rebounds as well. Devin Booker got his mid-range game going, scoring 27 points in the game. And it was just constant pressure from Phoenix. Now the Bucks fought valiantly, but Giannis only had 20 points. He had 17 rebounds, but you need more for them to win this series. He needs to be more than a 20-point player. Brook Lopez had 17. Middleton had 29. Middleton had another pretty strong game. But really, what needed to happen was Drew Holiday needed to play like he did in the conference final. And he had 10 points, 9 assists in the game, which is great, but only 10 points. He's too good of a shooter to only have 10 points. He's got to be more productive. And he just wasn't. And their bench, Milwaukee is not a better team without Giannis Antetokounmpo, because you're not a better team without a 2-time MVP, without a defensive player of the year on your roster. However, they move the ball better when he's not, because what they can do is whenever Giannis is on the floor, he goes into the paint because he doesn't have an outside shot. His 3-point shot, he shoots just over 30%. He's not a threat. As a defense, you give him that shot whenever he wants it. you give most guys in Milwaukee the 3 whenever they want it. You could say the same thing for the Phoenix Suns. But when Giannis is in the paint, Brook Lopez, their 7-foot center, can't be there because they occupy too much space. So what happens is Brook Lopez ends up playing on the perimeter, and he used to be a great low post player. And we saw his low post game in the conference final where Giannis wasn't there. He had 33 points in game 5. But last night, all he did was hang outside the 3-point line. He's a decent 3-point shooter, but that's not where you're going to punish Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton's their one big man. Get him in foul trouble, then you have an advantage because you're going to be on Torrey Craig. You're going to have Jay Crowder on you. That's not a matchup Phoenix is ever going to win defensively. Milwaukee's such a frustrating team because at times you're like, this team, yeah, they're going to win the NBA championship. But their stupidity and Mike Budenholzer not making adjustments is just infuriating because your outside shot's not working. Shooting the 3 that many times doesn't work. Get the ball in the paint. You have Giannis. You have Brook Lopez. You have Bobby Portis. Middleton's got a good mid-range game, but he can also get to the paint. Use that part of your game. The 3 ball is great. Some teams use it so effectively. The Golden State Warriors made it beyond popular. The Houston Rockets tried to copy that blueprint, but it's not always going to work. And for Phoenix, and for Milwaukee, it isn't. They shot 44% from 3 last night, and for them, that's pretty good. But it's got to be better than that. You get to the paint. That's how you're going to win this series. And another thing, free throws. They shot 56% from the free throw line last night as a team. Now, Giannis is going to do that every game. He's going to shoot below 50% more often than not. But you shoot 50% from the free throw line as a team, 56.3%. That's just pathetic. You're not going to win like that. You'll lose by 13. Well, a bunch of points sitting there. And another thing you could say is they only had 16 free throw attempts. Phoenix had 26, and they made 25 of them. You think of the Chris Paul, great free throw shooter. Devin Booker, great free throw shooter. Ayton is actually pretty decent for a big man. You got Crowder, who's a good free throw shooter. But you can't have 16 free throw attempts with Brook Lopez, Giannis, Bobby Portis, Middleton, like I just said, PJ Tucker even. It can't be that few. For Giannis to have 17 rebounds and only that many free throws as a team, you got to do more. And, you out-rebounded the Suns, but you need to get in that paint area. It can't just be 3 ball, long 2. Get to the paint. The 2 points, it'll knock them down eventually because Monty Williams will have to use timeouts, and then DeAndre Ayton will get in foul trouble, or they're going to have to make it, a switch because eventually DeAndre Ayton needs a rest. And with Dario Saric tearing his ACL last night, it's likely going to be Frank Kaminsky as the backup center. He's not going to get many minutes. He only played 4 last night, but he's not a great mover. Giannis, Brook, whoever's on him will have that advantage. Use it while he's on the floor. Make them pay. And it was just stupid basketball from Milwaukee last night. Now, can they come back and win game 2? Of course. But what worries me is Giannis's health. Is he 100%? Of course not. He's been through a lot in these playoffs. But what do you have? Can the team play great basketball with him on the floor? The way they've moved the ball. I just mentioned it's not as efficient. And I just worry for this team long term when it comes to them playing the kind of basketball they want to play with Giannis on the floor, the ball kind of stopping with him and not having that free-flowing type of offense that you want to see from a championship level team. But game 2 goes tomorrow night. We'll see if Chris Paul can have replicate that performance. He's had, obviously had 37 in game 6 to close out the Clippers, 32 and 9 to start this series. So he's on a tear right now, and he's, close out Chris is really coming out to play here. The Suns are now 3 games away, and he's 3 games away from winning his first NBA championship, which would vault him, I think, into the top 5-6 point guards in the history of the game. So that's gonna do it for today's podcast. We got some hockey in, talked some tennis, NBA. Obviously we're getting close to the MLB All-Star game. A big series this week between the Astros and Athletics. Astros coming back from a 6-1 deficit last night to win 9-6. Altuve hitting 2 home runs. So Houston continues to win. We see Shohei Ohtani go 7 innings last night against the Red Sox. Also gets an RBI double in his first at bat. The guy is just a machine, what he's doing to his competition. And I love it. I think he's the most watchable player in the NBA. And he's a joy to watch. And we'll see him obviously be in the All-Star game as a pitcher and a hitter, which is, Babe Ruthian like. But we'll also see what happened. The Toronto Blue Jays lose last night. The Rays picked up a win already today. They're in a doubleheader against the Cleveland Indians. They're up 4-0 in the 6th inning, so it's only a 7-inning game. The Blue Jays play the Rays again this weekend, a 3-game set, but they got 2 more against Baltimore, and you can't lose too many against Baltimore. Down the stretch, the Blue Jays are going to be a playoff team. They need to get these wins against Baltimore. They need to take 2 or 3 again from Tampa because you're chasing Boston, and your pitching's lacking. They traded Rowdy Tellez yesterday to get Trevor Richards, who's kind of a veteran arm in the bullpen. We'll see if he can materialize. This is his 3rd team already this season, so it's not like he's been lighting up the league. But they do make a move to get an arm, so I'll give the management credit in that sense that they are looking to improve this roster whenever they can. But as I said, we're going to start doing these pods in the afternoon, so expect a 5:30, 6 o'clock, between 5 and 6 podcast drop every weekday. So everybody have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy Game 5 tonight. Could be the last NHL game of the year. So get your fix in while you can, and stay safe as always. And we'll talk soon.